Buying or selling a home is probably the biggest financial move you're ever going to make. And you hire an expert, right? Someone to guide you, someone you trust has your back. But that relationship is actually a lot more complicated than it looks. It all boils down to one single critical question. It seems obvious, doesn't it? They're working for you. But in the eyes of the law, that relationship is incredibly specific. And if you misunderstand it, well, the consequences can be huge. So to really get to the bottom of this, we have to talk about a legal concept called agency. Okay, so first things first. Before we get into how these relationships are formed, we need to define what agency even means. This is the foundation for, well, everything else we're about to cover. At its heart, agency is all about representation. You've got one person, the agent, who is legally allowed to act for someone else, the principal. And the key phrase here is under the principal's authority. Basically, the principal is the one calling the shots, and the agent is the one carrying out the plan. So let's break down who's who. If you're the one buying or selling the house, congratulations, you are the principal. The broker you hire, that's your agent, and they are authorized to act based on what you tell them to do. It sounds pretty straightforward, but trust me, it's not always so black and white. So, how is this relationship made official? Well, the most common, and frankly, the safest way, is with a formal written agreement. This creates what the law calls an actual agency. It's all laid out in a written contract, like a listing agreement. Everything is spelled out, so there's no confusion. But even inside these contracts, the promises being made can be pretty different. You see, contracts come in two main flavors. You've got your unilateral agreement, which is basically a promise for an act. The seller says, hey, I'll pay a commission to any broker who brings me a buyer. It's a free-for-all, and no single agent is really obligated to do anything. But then you have a bilateral agreement, and that's a promise for a promise. The seller promises to pay, and the agent promises to work hard to find a buyer. It's a two-way street. But here's where it gets really interesting. What happens when there isn't a written contract? This is where things can get super tricky, because an agency relationship can pop into existence by accident, just based on what people say and do, even if nobody ever meant for it to happen. This is what's known as an implied agency. In this case, the law just looks at how everyone behaved and can decide, yep, a relationship exists here, even if not a single piece of paper was ever signed. And as you can probably guess, this is where things can get really, really messy. I mean, here's a perfect and kind of scary example. Let's say a seller's agent is showing a house to a potential buyer. If that agent starts saying things like, don't you worry, I'll help you get a really great price on this place, they could accidentally create an implied agency with that buyer. And just like that, they're legally representing two people with opposite goals. That's a massive conflict of interest. And right alongside that is this idea called estoppel. It's a legal rule that's all about fairness. It basically says you can't have it both ways. If your words and actions make someone reasonably believe you have an agent working for you, the law can stop you from turning around later and denying it just because it suits you. Okay, so we've got agency by formal agreement, and we've got agency created by accident. But there's a third, and kind of surprising, way an agency can be formed after something has already happened. It's a concept called ratification. Ratification is what happens when someone acts on your behalf without your permission, but you approve it after the fact. So imagine an agent accepts an offer on your house that you never actually authorized. If you then look at that offer and say, you know what, I'll take it, you've just ratified their unauthorized action, and now it's a totally legal binding deal. But it's not quite as simple as just saying okay. For ratification to stick, legally, a few conditions have to be met. First, the agent had to have claimed they were acting for you. You, the principal, also needed to know all the important facts, and you had to be legally able to approve the deal in the first place. And this is a big one. It's an all-or-nothing package. You have to accept the whole deal, the good and the bad. And finally, you have to do it before the other person involved gets impatient and walks away. All right, so we've gone through the how agency is created, but now we need to get to the why. Why does all this legal stuff matter so much? Because when agency goes wrong, believe me, the stakes are incredibly high for absolutely everyone involved. So let's go back to our agent who accidentally started representing both the buyer and the seller. What are the actual real-world consequences when a broker is secretly working for both sides? The fallout is severe. A broker in that spot could face administrative discipline, loss of commission, and rescission of the transaction.
Let's translate that. They could lose their license, they could lose their entire paycheck from the deal, and the whole sale could be completely canceled. This isn't just some legal theory. It can blow up the biggest financial transaction of a person's life.
So really, at the end of the day, being crystal clear about who is working for whom is the best protection for everybody. It makes sure buyers and sellers get the loyalty they're paying for, and it protects agents from making a mistake that could end their career. So, just to recap, we've got the three main paths to creating an agency relationship: the official way, with a formal agreement, the accidental way, through the actions of the parties, and the retroactive way, by ratifying something after it's already done. You know, in any huge deal, the most important question isn't how much does it cost, it's who is truly on my side. Now that you understand the rules of agency, you can make absolutely sure you know the answer to that question. So the next time you're in that position, are you going to see that relationship a little differently?